For nearly 50 years, Biotics Research has been a trusted leader in the nutritional supplement industry. Known for uncompromising quality and innovative delivery systems, the company continues to advance the field through ongoing research, unique formulations, and rigorous quality control. Family-owned with a rich history, Biotics Research is most proud of the strong partnerships it has built with the healthcare professionals. On Adjusted Reality, we talk about living strong, vibrant, and healthy. And that starts with the environment around us, whether it's practice or at home. Force of Nature Pro makes it easy to protect your whole being and those you serve with an EPA-registered hospital-grade disinfectant that's powerful against germs, yet free from harsh toxic chemicals. It's safe on hands, treatment tables, and everyday surfaces while supporting better indoor air quality. Plus, it reduces single-use plastics and costs up to 80% less than many traditional products. If you're ready to align your life, your practice, your family routine with a cleaner, more sustainable future, go to forceofnatureclean.com for home and forceofnaturepro.com for exclusive business pricing and limited time offers. Healthy space, healthy practice, healthy life with Force of Nature Pro. Welcome to Adjusted Reality, a podcast series trusted by the adjusted and brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, where we learn from athletes, celebrities, influencers, and healthcare professionals about how to optimize health in a fun, relatable way. Join me, Dr. Sherry McAllister, as we welcome author and trauma expert Michelle Mays. Michelle Mays is an author, an innovator, and a licensed professional counselor with over 20 years of clinical experience, specializing in betrayal, attachment trauma, and relational healing. Drawing from both her professional training and personal healing journey, Michelle has become a leading voice in helping individuals and couples understand how betrayal impacts the nervous system, emotional health, and the ability to feel safe in connection. She is the founder of the Relational Recovery Institute and the author of the best-selling book, The Betrayal Bind: When It All Breaks Bad, and more. I want to thank you so much, Michelle, for coming back. I know our very first time was so fun. We got so many great comments that I had to bring you back. So welcome back.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm really glad to be here again.
Well, now, before we jump into today's conversation, I want to pause for a moment and recognize something very special. This is our 100th episode of Adjusted Reality Podcast. In the past 99 episodes, we've learned from experts, top athletes, and celebrities. We've built an incredible community of people who are willing to think bigger and who truly care about their health. Whether you've been here since episode 1 and know that we truly love you, or you just found us last week, that's okay. And I thank you for being here. Now let's get busy with Michelle Mays because she has so much to offer. Now, last time we spoke, you shared a little bit about the book and what actually made you write the book. I want to kind of revisit that and find out how the book is doing and what's new in that area.
All right. Well, so yes, I wrote the book. It came out in 2023. We're about to have the second edition come out March 3rd of the book. And I wrote the book, so it's called The Betrayal Bind: How to Heal When the Person You Love the Most Hurts You the Worst. So it's about, and it's for people who are healing from infidelity of some kind, regardless of what that looks like in the relationship. And I wrote the book because I had my own story of betrayal that happened. It's been a while now, but I was married to somebody who was dealing with a sex addiction. And back when that happened, people did not understand. They certainly didn't understand sexual addiction. That was like not understood at all, or even in our common language. And they really didn't even understand how to deal with infidelity really well, or for the person being impacted by it, the concept of betrayal trauma, which is what somebody who experiences infidelity goes through. Just these things were not understood. And so everywhere I went looking for help, I hit a brick wall, or I found people who were well-intentioned, but it actually caused more harm. And so it just felt like I stumbled around in a desert for quite some time. And so when I finally did find some good help, and I did end up leaving my relationship, that was the choice that I made for my healing. And I was at the same time entering the counseling field, and I started working with people who are dealing with this issue. And I got really interested in how do we actually provide treatment models that help people? Like, how do we advance the knowledge base and the research base and the application of that to people's actual lives? Because I think there's some good research, but how do we actually make that applicable so that people know how to take it in and do something with it? So I've spent 20 years working in this area, and the book is really kind of the culmination of that. And it's a new attachment-based model for treating partner betrayal, for treating the impacts of infidelity.
That's fantastic, and I understand that a new edition is coming out. Is that
Yeah.
true? Is the rumor true?
Yes, the rumor is true. The new edition's coming out on March 3rd. And I really, since the book originally came out, I've just done more work on the model that underlies the book and really thinking about the different components of that and what is it that's really fractured by betrayal inside of us. And I think it's our two most core needs, which are our needs for a sense of self and then our need for belonging and how that ripples out. And so I've updated the book with everything that I've learned and been refining and added some new chapters, added some new graphics, all to kind of bring the language up into alignment with where I'm at with thinking through the model. And there's a new audio book also.
Ah,
So, and I
fantastic. I
read
know
it
our
this
I know
time.
our
It's in my
listeners love
voice.
that.
It's in my voice. So that is also coming out.
Fantastic. So you can listen to this when you go to the gym. Okay, adjusted reality people. Thank you for being here and listening. But once this book comes out, that's an awesome time to really reflect on what is happening in your life. And Michelle, you talked about the models, and I really like to kind of dive in there because you developed the braving model. And I know that's a big concept, but can you give us kind of the 60,000-foot view? What is the braving model? And I also know that there's the hope model too. So let's play with those two things.
Yeah, so I would say, like from a 60,000-foot view of the Braving model, what we're really looking at is that when we experience betrayal in our relationship, and of course, for my clients, that's usually infidelity, but it could be like a whole range of things that aren't infidelity, but are other things in a relationship. But when we experience betrayal and ruptures in our relationships, the very first thing that gets impacted is our attachment system. So our attachment system goes into distress because the person that we're connected to, there's now a rupture with that person, and a sense of threat and a loss of safety has come in. And that thing that happens in a nanosecond is actually what sends our nervous system into dysregulation. And then what creates coping and trauma symptoms. Trauma symptoms are coping that we're trying to do to manage our nervous system. And all of it unfolds, but all of it unfolds from that first impact to our attachment system and the loss of safe connection. So the model is based around that understanding and then taking that and spilling it out to look at, okay, if the primary thing that is being impacted here is our sense of safety with another person, then how do we start to cope with that? And what are the things that we tend to do that are not helpful? And what do we need to do instead that is helpful? And so the model looks at what I call the betrayal binds, and it's these places where our attachment system runs us into binds as we're trying to navigate ruptures and betrayal. And then we also look at like how do you actually untangle the binds and heal from them?
That's actually a really critical perspective is the untangling. And I'll tell you from the chiropractic perspective is nerves get tangled together. And we call it nerves that fire together, wire together. And when you continue to go down a road where you have had this safety impacted, you typically go into what is called the fight or flight, that sympathetic nervous system. And it's a really not good place to be all the time. It can be very functional when it's necessary, but for someone who has experienced these betrayals, and like you said, it doesn't have to be just infidelity. There's a lot going on in the world right now that puts us in these positions. And betrayal trauma is one piece of it. Tell me more about, from a chiropractic, we look physiologically, but from where you are, you're more of the psychological. And both these wounds have a place. What's your clinical experience when you see these kind of things from a symptomology perspective?
I think I think the physical and the psychological are one in a lot of ways, because what we're really talking about is what is happening in your nervous system because this attachment rupture has happened that gives you a sense of security and safety, which allows your nervous system to be in that window of rest and digest that we like to be in, where we're calm but alert. And when we experience ruptures, stress, crisis of any kind, it's going to shoot us out of that into some kind of a response in our nervous system. And that can be shooting us into, now we're hypervigilant and we're highly activated and we're, scanning for danger everywhere around us. Or it could actually be the opposite, where we sort of get deflated and collapse in and are depressed and are more low and contained. It could do either thing. And so to me, the symptoms that we're dealing with, that people are coming in with, all have to do with their nervous system. And their nervous system is driving their behavior. And I think that's sometimes something that we don't realize. We think that we actually kind of think that we're just doing the things we're doing for who knows why, or maybe we even think we're choosing them. I don't know. But to me, when I see a client come in, I'm like, everything they're doing is driven by their attachment system first and their nervous system. Those two things are what are driving how they behave and are coping with whatever's happening in their lives.
Such a critical point, because when we talk about, from a chiropractic perspective, nervous system dysregulation, we're talking about misalignments. We're talking about, joints that are not moving as effectively, tension in the musculoskeletal system, where there's oftentimes a lot of trigger points or hyper irritable areas of the body. For women, it's often found in the shoulders and into the neck, which why probably statistics show women get more headaches than men. But this is really a key piece, because when you're off physically, your capacity to handle things start to decrease. Can you share a little bit about what you've learned on that capacity level? And, obviously a lot of us do some things that are not ideal when it comes to either on the scale of anxiety or depression. And we don't see it as dysfunctional, but actually I think we're dysregulating ourselves even more as like social media comes into our life.
Yeah. So one thing that's coming to mind too, as you're saying what you're saying, is that in my population, like I work a lot with the people who are impacted by betrayal, and I never cease to be amazed at the level of physical health issues that this population is dealing with. And so the overlay between stress to our nervous system and then that manifesting in our physical health, I just don't think you can overstate that coupling that happens. It's such a significant thing that happens for people. So I might have lost your question in there as I
No,
was
you're
thinking.
spot on. Actually, what I
Okay.
was looking for is that capacity, because a lot of us will go towards things that maybe we think kind of give us that peace of mind and relaxation, like you dumb down and you go scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or something of that nature. But then we start to realize we're not actually helping ourselves. And from where I sit, I see a lot of people in chronic tension, and then they start getting chronic pain. And, we just had less than 2 or 3 months ago a research article that came out talking about an increase in chronic pain by 21% across America. That means we're getting worse, not better. So it's fundamentally, how do you see it in your life? Does it play out in things that you do or say or even feel during the day?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about nervous system dysregulation and how that manifests, I do think about capacity in terms of that it does limit our capacity. Like when we're highly dysregulated in whatever direction, it limits our capacity to take care of ourselves. It limits our capacity for connection. It just brings our capacity down. And
And
then, go ahead.
no, please go, can continue.
Well, I was just going to say, and then of course we have to cope with that in different ways. And I think people use a world of things to cope with, but I will say in this moment that we're in, I think often we're all using some kind of distraction. Like it might be TV, it might be YouTube, it might be social media, it might be, who knows, gaming, it might be gambling. There's like a world of gambling and stuff now. There's just all these things that I think we're trying to distract ourselves from the dysregulation that we're feeling because I don't think sometimes we know what to do with it and how to deal with it.
That's the point. I think that people need to get your book and understand where they're at. Because first, and I always say this to my audience, it's like GPS coordinates, right?
Mhm.
You oftentimes can feel lost, sometimes even lose hope, especially when you have had your safety disrupted. Because it's fundamental. It's like the core of all the things that we desire as human beings is the dignity. And if safety becomes impacted, then it comes with a whole realm of different emotions and different side effects, both physically and mentally, and then identifying where you are. So, step one, if you're lost, you'll find your GPS coordinates by I am nowhere to getting Michelle's book and finding where you are, which is now here. And where do I start? What are some of the things that come up that you start identifying in your own self? Because I think reading books or listening, as you said, it's going to come out in audio, is one of the perspectives of being able to gauge you as an individual and what your needs are. And sometimes we don't want to share all our intimate details, but having a book like yours and having someone that has been in situations that has compromised your resiliency and your capacity, you speak from experience, especially when it comes to safety and often how that can activate a cycle of disruption in your life. Can you share with us a little bit on a personal perspective of patterns that you've seen in your office where you've seen some fundamental extreme changes in the positive?
So extreme changes in the positive as people are moving from lack of safety to safety is
Yes, from that
yeah,
full
yeah.
capacity load, they're leveling up to that.
Oh my
I
goodness.
can handle
Yeah.
life better now.
Yes. I mean, I would say that for my specific audience, often when they come in, they've been separated from safety. They've also been separated from their reality because often the infidelity was going on in secret. And so it was like this other double life was happening that they didn't know about. So they are really dealing with a high level of nervous system dysregulation, and they're very scattered because of that, and they can't think straight often. And I would say one of the things that we work first on is just helping them learn how to calm their nervous system. So just paying attention and understanding what dysregulation feels like in their body, and then how can they help themselves. And we've got like all these tools that we use. We use breathing and different forms of breathing and meditation apps and weighted blankets and warm baths and uh, just grounding tools with different things, all to just help them start to know when I feel my nervous system, when I notice that I am like, I can't even think straight because I'm so jacked up from what's happening. The very first thing I have to do is put myself under that weighted blanket with a heating pad or do something to just calm my body down. So just recognizing that nervous system dysregulation is a bodily based thing, not a mental thing, It's in your body that it's happening. So we start there. And then the second thing that we start doing once they've got a sense of nervous system, how to regulate their nervous system, then we start building self-trust. So we start asking them to do things that help them know that they can trust themselves a little bit. And that can be things like, when I'm hungry, I feed myself. When I am thirsty, I give myself something to drink, to something really big. Like when my gut prompts me that something is going on, I listen, or I pay attention to what I need and I ask for it. But every single time you meet your own need in some way, you build trust with yourself. And that brings back safety and circles back to the safety issue.
So this really sounds to me like first we have to find where our and you said it best. It can be relationships. It can be things that have happened in your life that maybe not you've lost the safety in your life and you need to reflect back on that. When you look to see people showcase their best ability to move into a higher capacity, a higher sense of healing, where do some of the things, when you've used the techniques, and especially like I am a huge fan of the weighted blanket, I love that. Where do you start to see a person really take off once they get some of the techniques? Where if you fundamentally said to yourself, aha, I see this person is starting to really engage with the therapy and starting to show levels of more regulation nervous system wise. What are some of the things that you would say when you see it, you're like, oh, this person is really fundamentally doing well?
I think the pivot point that I see for my clients on this is that when they can start to regulate their nervous system, then they get to reclaim choice. And our power lies in our ability to actually make choices for ourselves. And so when something comes into your relationship that creates a lack of safety, whether it's infidelity or something else, it's often coming in without you choosing it. And so you actually have an experience of powerlessness because your circumstances all of a sudden just changed and you're being impacted by those circumstances. And so what I see happen for people is when they are able to regulate, they're able to kind of come back into this understanding that their true power lies in their ability to make choices for themselves. And then to start to really think about, okay, what in this moment, what would be best for me? And then in this moment, what is best for me? And make choices for themselves. And when you do that, you get your power back. So you move yourself into empowerment. And so, sorry, my dog is growling and barking. So when you return to choice in that way, you move yourself back into empowerment. And that is where the healing takes off. Like that to me is the pivot point, is when people really get, oh, wait, my power lies in my ability to make choices for myself. And when I regulate my nervous system, my capacity to do that comes back in a different way. And now I can start to make different choices. And then everything just grows and builds from there.
What's really beautiful is you used the word power. And you and I are on separate, distinct disciplines. But we share similar words because personal power is reflected both physiologically and then also through the ability to have strength in our choices. Can you talk about more of maybe the outcomes that you see with choices that are made that really empower people? What are some of the areas, like, is it career wise? Is it choices for relationships? What are some of the things that you see in that area?
Honestly, what I see, I'm because I'm dealing more in the relational realm, I see it more in that space. But I see people changing their relationship with themselves first. It's often this relationship with themselves of, oh, I actually can help my nervous system, help my body. I can support my body in and when I support my body in a whole different way, I get freedom to make choices in different ways. And that changes my relationship with myself because I start to believe in myself. I start to feel more solid in myself. I start to trust myself. And then that spills out into their relationship with their partner, maybe. They start to ask for things differently in the relationship. They start to communicate differently in the relationship. I have seen it change career courses. I've seen it like there's this real interesting thing that happens when you change the relationship with yourself that then you start to engage with your life really differently. And I've seen people make big moves with hobbies or dreams that they had let die and that they bring back and start to pursue, or career moves, all out of this ability to feel really firmly connected and in relationship with themselves in a way that is safe and secure.
I had a feeling you were going to say that because one of the things that brought me to really wanting to dive in with you was it's that personal relationship you have with yourself. And the Surgeon General in 2023 came out with 50% of US adults are experiencing measurable loneliness. And
Mm,
it's that is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, and premature mortality. Those are the facts. Then you have a program like Harvard, Harvard making carry its Caring Common project, and it shows in their project between 18 and 25-year-olds, 61% of them were reporting serious loneliness. And the young adults actually reported the highest rate of loneliness across all age groups. One final fact, which still blows me away, is Cigna, which is the insurance company focusing on the loneliness index. Gen Z scores had the highest. So our youth is getting more lonely, and the impacts when you talk about self-love and you talk about relationship building, and then you see the opposite side of that, which is loathing yourself, anxiety, depression, sadness, and then it dives deep into that loneliness. You bring the hope, and without the hope, you cannot cope. And I think that's where a lot of fundamentally we have to start somewhere. And there's a famous Simon Sinek quote, which I love very much because I'm a chiropractor and you're deeply involved in the emotional component of this, but it's focus on the long term success, but be willing to make short term adjustments. And that is such a beautiful quote because what you said in being able to like regulate ourselves and be able to have a better capacity, whether that's, figuring out how we're using our dopamine system, which in today's world is we're dopamine hitters. We're all in there trying to figure out what to do next. Is now we need to self-regulate and self-soothe in a positive direction. And I wanted to ask you as we follow up today, because you always bring such incredible information out, and you bring a sense of safety just knowing that it's okay to dive into these areas, which a lot of us we were brought up with suck it up, just get on with it, and that makes it so much worse.
yes.
um Share with me from where you are. A listener today is out there, someone really feeling broken is the term that I get a lot. I feel broken,
Mm,
and I get it. That means there's fractured pieces here, there, and everywhere. But Michelle's here to say that's not where you need to be. You don't live in the broken house. You live in this beautiful, bold, brave world.
mhm.
And to get the help you need, it means you have to understand what your capacity is and how to heal. Can you share a little bit about what would you give that person today that really needs um, some help? They feel like they're lost. Their GPS coordinates are I don't know where.
It's interesting because I go back to what you started with the loneliness statistics that are coming out and everything. And then I think about the idea of I feel broken, right? And I think one of the things that we're forgetting because of technology, and technology doesn't really factor this in, is that we have an attachment system. And as human beings, our capacity to connect with other humans is our most fundamental, primal, and important survival skill. It is what has allowed us to survive as a species. And I think that we sometimes think that we can look at something online or have a conversation over text, and that is connection. And yet it leaves our attachment system, which is in our body, outside of it some. We really actually need to be body to body with people, right? We need to have another nervous system supporting our nervous system. And one of the beautiful things that happens when humans are with other humans is that we get nervous system regulation and support from one another. And so if you're feeling broken, I think one of the things I would say is one place to start on that is to think about how can I access some other nervous systems that would help support my nervous system? Like, are there people in my life that are friends or family? Are there people I've kind of maybe let some relationships wane, but they were people that nourished me in some way? Maybe I need to go reignite those. Maybe I need to go look for some places where I can get involved and meet other people. How can I start to bring other people's nervous systems in to support my nervous system? So I think that is one thought. And then the other thought that comes up is to also remember that your body is wired to heal. Your body actually is always trying to heal. It is always trying to uh, have like what's called homeostasis, like good balance in your whole body, right? So if you feel broken, one thing to remember is your body is on the side of your healing, and your body is going to point you toward healing. So to also think about listening to yourself, like what do I need right now? You know, what would help me feel better? Where am I stuck or what is blocking things for me? And listen to what your body has to say more than your mind. You know, like if you're like, I just feel really broken and stuck in my relationships or in my work or in my whatever it is, to really then ask your body, like, what do we need here? Because your body has more information in a lot of ways than your brain does. And your body wants to move you toward healing.
It's so beautiful that we came to this place because I reflect back to when you're in regulation, you'll find happiness. And there are people out there that generated great happiness. I think back to Mahatma Gandhi, who said, happiness is when you think, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. And then
Mm.
you said something beautiful because it's bringing people together. And this is the technology age is really very difficult to navigate because nervous system to nervous system is beautiful. Like if my friend is with me right here, right now, I feel a whole different sense than if I'm on a Zoom call. But oftentimes, you know, you can find the greatest happiness and the best way to find yourself, which is losing yourself in the service of others. It's being, that's his quote, is being in the presence of someone who is directly involved in bringing up or bringing forward your best attributes, but also helping you when you kind of need that hand up. And that's where I think you have fundamentally touched base with it. It's the, from a chiropractic alignment perspective, it's kind of that coherence where your body is in a functional harmony system. And there's places where you can go and get that. And when you said that, it made me ask one more question because I could keep you forever because it's so fundamentally incredible when you start thinking about where we are today and how we can be better and build greater happiness and harmony in our lives. And the primitive reality, the adjusted reality is we need each other, not just for companionship, but I think there's an atonement that happens when other people come in the room. There's a frequency, and you want to be surrounded by people like you that are zesty, that are really looking for the very best. But let's say for the chiropractors or the healthcare providers that are listening, because I know you're out there and I love you. What are some subtle things that potentially a patient who walks into them who has physical pain,
Mhm.
what would you do to ensure that we're keeping the provider in a spot that's creating safety for them, especially if they're having these betrayal issues, um, and we don't want the doctor of chiropractic to step outside their scope, because this is not their, they're not there to heal betrayal bonds that have been broken in physiological trauma, yes, but psychological trauma, no. What would you say to those healthcare providers to kind of open up the moment to make them feel safe, secure, but willing to move into a greater place to be? And I want to leave it at that for you.
Yeah, I love this question. And I love it too because we're talking to the chiropractic community. And I feel like that's a more holistic leaning community often. And so to me, I think just out of the gate to be so aware that the physical pain that people are coming in with, sometimes it's a mechanical issue. And sometimes it's an emotional issue, and sometimes it's a combo platter of the two and what's going on in their life. Or maybe it started as a mechanical issue, and now this crisis that they're in relationally and emotionally is exacerbating it. And I think that just because the population I work with deal with so many physical issues, simply being attuned to the fact that there's more going on for the person than just the physical pain or the physical thing that they're dealing with, and being attuned to all that their body is carrying in that moment. And it may be outside of your scope to treat it, but simply acknowledging it is a profound balm for people. So simply to validate how much a person's body is carrying in a moment with whatever it is that they are dealing with, and how that might be also impacting whatever they're dealing with physically, that goes a long way to creating safety and trust in the relationship with you. If you're just simply aware of it and acknowledging that it's there.
I am forever grateful that you're willing to have these. They're very deep, intimate conversations. And everybody out there today, we're all human and we all go through relationship loss, relationship gain, sadness, fragility, the spectrum from anxiety to worry to depression. All of these pieces make us human. And what we got out of Adjusted Reality today is we need to be able to, first and foremost, I think, as you create your next edition of your book, to build on the models that you started already, is to recognize and embrace the ability that we can heal, we can see brighter pastures. And Michelle, I just want to thank you, because when you come on, people start to realize that it's not as bad as I thought it was, because now I'm dealing with it. I'm taking the layers of the onion and I'm peeling them back to get to the core of some of the things that perhaps have not made my life better, but I've been doing things just because it was the only way I knew how to cope. And if we can give you better coping mechanisms, then life changes. And last word to you on coping mechanisms, Michelle, last word.
I would say be very kind and gentle with yourself, because however you're coping, that has to do with your capacity in the moment. And you may be like, you know what, how I'm coping over here, it is not serving me well, or it's causing some problems for me. And you may need to change it. And that's a good awareness. And then to also know, like, you may have to change it slowly because your capacity to handle whatever's happening has to grow. Like, it has to grow as you deal with it. And so to have some grace and compassion for yourself and allow things to take time, because we're in a human body, we're not a machine. So when we're making changes and we're coping with big losses in our lives and grief and all of those things, it's a big deal for our bodies and our nervous systems to handle, and we need to be patient with ourselves as we go about it.
Beautifully said, Michelle, as always. Well, thank you very much for coming on Adjusted Reality today. You adjusted my reality, and that's a beautiful thing. It's a great day to have someone like you come into our lives and really shape our thoughts and our experiences, and then resources that we can get to really build and become who we want to be. And it takes time, and you're right, it takes grace to ourselves. And self-love is really where I think it fundamentally starts. So thank you very much for coming on today, Michelle. We look forward to seeing that new edition and building more on the opportunities to grow.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a great joy to be here.
Well, I want to thank you for tuning in to Adjusted Reality as we spoke to Michelle Mays about betrayal trauma and healing from it. Now, as you know, this podcast was brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, and we know life moves pretty fast. We want to make sure you never miss an episode. So visit f4cp.org/adjusted reality to subscribe to our newsletter. And while you're there, make sure you pick up a copy of the Adjusted Reality book. Interested in hearing from a specific guest? Well, you can also send us your guest recommendations. Now, don't forget to subscribe, share the podcast with friends and family, rate and review. And if you're feeling so inspired to learn more about chiropractic or to find a doctor of chiropractic near you, you can visit f4cp.org/find a doctor. We appreciate your support and look forward to checking in with you again soon. If you want to supercharge your whole being, well, our brand new book, Adjusted Reality, comes out on October 14th. You can buy it on Amazon, or you can click the link below in the description of this episode and you can get your copy today. And thank you for making the 100th episode memorable and supported. All the best to you, and see you on season 101 episode.